episode. So today we are joined by Faye from Blackpool Carers, and the focus of today is going to be all about young carers, and we do have another special guest coming on in about 40 minutes time. So once again, just to quickly give an introduction to who myself and Dave are. So my name's Sam Tyrer. I'm the founder of a service called Change Talks. I'm also the prevention and engagement lead at Lancashire and South Cumbria Foundation Trust, and my main aim is to prevent mental health problems.
My name is Dave Cottrell. I am a neurolinguistic programming coach who is currently training to be a cognitive behavioural therapist. That I'm putting that out there in the world so that I've got accountability that I have to finish the course because I've been putting that course off for a long period of time. My aim in life is to make mental health education and care accessible to all.
Perfect. That was a bit of a different.
That's a short one for me. We can actually have a whole hour of the conversation now.
So just if anyone has any questions throughout this episode, you can ask on the live stream. If anyone wants to get in touch afterwards on any comments or any feedback, my email is sam.tyrer, so Tyrer, at lancashirecare.nhs.uk. So welcome, Faye.
Morning.
How are you?
Yeah, we're good here now. The doors are starting to open a bit and we're getting a few more people through. So small bits of normal coming back.
Good. So we have been talking just before we've gone live onto this stream. So could you just tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about Blackpool Carers as well, please?
Yeah. So obviously I'm Faye. I'm from Blackpool Carers. I'm one of the directors here. Even though I've got that quite grand title, my reason for being here is that I have worked with children and families for a number of years, not just in Blackpool but also in other areas of Lancashire, particularly young carers and the families, and that's where my interest is, about making sure that young carers are supported and that the families are supported as well, so that young carers have a choice as to how they live their lives. So that's me.
Could you just the first question to start with, Faye?
Yeah.
What age range do you work with with young care?
We work with children from the age of 5 who are providing care to somebody within the family. So that could be a mum or dad, a sibling, and so, we do have some families where it's grandparents that are looked after, and that can be for a whole range of reasons. That can be through physical disabilities, illnesses such as cancer, COPD, diabetes, that kind of thing. But also we have carers, young carers from the age of 5 that are helping to look after somebody because of mental ill health or substance misuse. And sometimes it's a combination of issues. We're often working with families where there's more than one care need within the family. So we do have children that help to look after siblings that have got disabilities and life-limiting illnesses, and obviously they're classed as a secondary carer there. There's usually mum or dad as the primary carer, and a young carer taking on some additional responsibilities. But then in other situations we've got children as primary carers, so they are responsible. It's almost like a role reversal in some cases where children are taking on running of the house, shopping, cleaning, cooking, as well as obviously being a young person and going to school.
And have the issues got worse for young carers since lockdown? Have they been struggling more, or?
What we've seen for young carers is that many families have taken the choice to bring their children out of school earlier than the lockdown. So we've in essence had children out of school since February. So that's a whole a really long time to be out of school and out of that routine. And for many of the children that we work with, school's a really positive routine. It's their chance to be themselves and be themselves outside of being a carer. So be a child, have friendships. Sometimes going to school means that they can be somebody else, in a sense that they're not a carer. They choose not to talk about being a carer. It's just their time to be them. So to take that away, as coronavirus has done and the lockdown has done, has left lots of children in full-time care, really, and in situations where often families aren't very well placed to be able to provide any homeschooling. So lots of responsibility on children, to the point where some children have found it really difficult to see an end to it. And I know we've probably felt that a little bit as well. When is this? When will the shops open? When can I get back out? When can I have some kind of normal? So for our families, that's been particularly difficult around mental health for children.
And have you found that the young people are expressing themselves about the concerns about being out of school? Are they openly talking about that, or are they reluctant to share their worries with you?
It's kind of a mixture, really. Obviously, the restrictions have put restrictions on us as well. So where we might go into school and see children, or we might do one-to-one sessions with them here at the centre, or out in Stanley Park, or wherever it might be. Obviously, early on in lockdown, those options were taken away from us. So lots of our contact was either like this, on video calls, where children were able to do that, or over the phone, sort of welfare checks. So early on, that was difficult. Conversations were difficult. People were still kind of trying to get their head around what this means. But they have started to open up a little bit more now, and we're able to see children face to face, which has been fantastic. You know, we're not talking across a garden wall or over the phone anymore. It's been getting children here at the centre, outside, playing in our garden, and kind of having those opportunities to talk things through, or being out on walk and talk kind of sessions. So they're starting to share that a little bit more now. And those kind of anxieties are coming through about going back to school, because for lots of the families that we work with, the vulnerabilities are very real around coronavirus and what that would mean. So there's conversations starting to be had now about going back to school, the worries around that.
And Dave, can I just ask you a question to input onto this? So if there's any young carers watching, just put you on the spot now,
okay,
that are really conscious about going back to school, or the parents are really nervous about them returning, what advice would you give them?
Oh, so as we're talking here, what I'm thinking of is the fact that when someone has got a certain level of care, they get used to a certain level of care. So right now, the parents in that situation there may be a sort of dual kind of pressure coming on there, because yes, there may be parents that are in that vulnerable situation where they don't want the kids to go back to school because of the potential of the virus making its way home, but there will also be a bunch of people that have got used to having the child there helping them 24 hours of the day. And though that will have been more difficult for the young carer, you know, not being able to have that other part of their identity, as Faye said a bit earlier, you know, not being able to have that me time, and we've all experienced that through this time, and I imagine someone in that situation is experiencing it much more. But there may be that added pressure, and particularly, I don't like to use the word selfish, because I don't think it's being selfish. I think the person that's in that situation, but there might be a lot of extra additional pressure from a parent that I need you at home all this time. Because when someone is suffering from a condition, it can become very, I'm not going to call it selfish, but self-absorbing maybe is probably a better way to say it. So that person may feel like, well, I've only just coped with having this care from my child 24 hours of the day, all the waking hours basically, and now when they go back to school, what am I going to do in that situation? And I think even parents with the best intent, if they're feeling that, can project those fears even if they don't do it in a very obvious way. So the kids might be feeling an extra bit of pressure from that. And it's hard, because we often talk about this to adults, and the idea of getting an adult to say, right, well, if you're looking after someone, you need care too, which is the big message that we often give to adults. And we know what it's like with adults that have spent their entire life so far giving all of their time to other people. They really, really struggle to take that on board. And there's a great principle behind all of this. There's a book called The Four Tendencies that outlines a person called an obliger. I'm one of them. And it took me a very, very long time to kind of start doing things because I wanted to do them. It's not just one of us can just say on an internet. We come in on the Mental Health Family Hour. It's like Sam and Dave say, look after yourself and you'll be just fine. It's like that person's going to find it really, really difficult to look after themselves, because there'll be a lot of people in that situation who are that obliger that find it much easier to do things for other people than they do for themselves. In that situation, please know that if that whole thing makes you feel like you're not enough because you're not able to be there for that person's every single need, that is not the case. You are absolutely 100% enough as a human being. You are doing something that the vast majority of us wouldn't have the fortitude to be able to do. You are strong, you are a warrior, you are beyond enough, and please know that, because probably no one's telling you that.
Thank you, Dave. And Faye, do you find that the young carers do sometimes they feel guilty for doing things for themselves?
Yes, and that's something that we work on in normal times. That's one of the strong themes that we have with the support that we offer. So it's important that right from the start of the support that we do talk to families about that. And it's often not that families don't want the children to have that time to themselves. It's like Dave said, that children often and young people often feel that obligation and duty. And it's not a negative thing, you know. So many of our children are really proud of what they do, and rightly so. You know, it's a situation they've not chosen that they're in and they're dealing with, and they're doing a fantastic job. But that time out is so vital to them being able to just have that space to explore how they feel about things, have that space to explore friendships with others that understand. So again, like school has been taken away from young carers during this time, so was the respite offer that we provide. So lots of children relied on the time that they had here, even if it was only a couple of hours a week, to come and you know, have some time with the respite workers, just be a child, you know, play games, get out and you know, have some time in the garden, do some arts and craft, have trips and activities in the school holidays, and just get out of Blackpool. For some of them, that's an option that's not there unless we offer it. So all that has been taken away. So we're trying to find different ways for children to take that time for themselves, because it is so important, that headspace to think about your own needs when you're so used to looking after somebody else's needs. It's needed for all of us, not just for young carers, but it is so important.
And I know from previous conversations you've said that many of the young carers have never been to the seaside, never been to ports. Could you just touch on that briefly? Because I know when we spoke last time that it really impacted me, that because I think when we get caught up in our own sort of bubble, especially when I was reflecting on my life, I thought it really upsets me that there's people that haven't even had opportunities like that, even though they live so close by.
Yes. As a support worker, when I was supporting families, and it's not that long ago, we're only talking sort of 3 or 4 years ago, I did work with children. Lots of them, it tends to be, and I think it's a Blackpool thing, that lots of families kind of land in Blackpool with no family support around them. They're often running from something that maybe didn't go so well somewhere else, land in Blackpool and have very limited support networks, apart from agencies that might pick them up through a school referral or social care being involved. So if you're a family that is in a new place and you've got underlying issues going on, you know, you're not able to get out and about as much as somebody else, then often life can become very small. You kind of live within this bubble that generally contains home, the shop at the corner, and school, and that's life for children, and you don't know any different. You think every family's like your home, don't you, when you're a young person? But just being, you know, as a service, just being able to do really simple things with children and families. I remember taking a little girl to Stanley Park. She only lived probably half a mile, maybe a mile away from Stanley Park, and she was about 7 or 8 at the time. And she told me that she didn't know that places like that existed. She lived with Dad, who had mental health problems and a drink problem. He was trying very hard and you know, really working on making life good for them both. But just that fear of him being, you know, he didn't want to do those things because he felt judged and like he didn't belong. So he didn't go to the park with her or go to the beach with her. So just opening up families to those really simple things has such an impact on how they deal with things. You know, going to the park and sharing some time either to have a picnic or play on the playground, and then being able to reflect on those memories afterwards and being able to build that up to go again in another week or so is really valuable. And obviously during this time that's been difficult, but it's kind of just to paint a picture of the sorts of issues that families are facing. Like I say, we kind of take for granted what we do with our own children and the kind of childhoods we've had. But for lots of these children, just going outside of the few streets around where they live is a huge thing for them.
And do you tend to get most referrals coming directly from schools? for these young
we do get lots of referrals from schools. We've got good relationships with schools, and that conversation seems to be a little bit more open now. When I started working with young carers probably 12, 13 years ago in a different area, but still in Lancashire, and quite a deprived area, I remember going into schools and talking about young carers and having teachers say, we don't have those kind of children here. So, well, you're not looking hard enough and you're not asking the right questions, because there's plenty of them. You just don't know those stories. And I think that has changed. You're more likely to go into a school now and teachers understanding what a young carer is, maybe on a basic level. I think we still have those kind of basic perspectives of young carers being a child who pushes a wheelchair and that kind of thing, and maybe miss out the children that are looking after somebody with mental health problems or substance misuse. They are more hidden. They're children that probably don't have the words to explain what they're doing and don't recognise themselves as a carer. Why would you? You know, mum can't get out of bed in the morning, she's very sad, she cries a lot. I don't really understand what that means, and I don't understand why that's different from anybody else, because I don't go to anybody else's house. So it's those kind of asking the right questions that we want professionals to be able to do when they're in contact with families.
Well, are families accepting of the service at first that you offer, or are they quite reluctant? Or are the young people reluctant because they just see that as the norm? You know, they don't know otherwise. They probably don't look at themselves as a carer, as you've previously said. So,
yeah,
is it a struggle at first to try and get them to come to access support that you're offering, or not?
It can be. I think that label of young carer is a little bit, you know, I remember going into schools and doing assemblies and sort of throwing that out there. Does anybody know what a young carer is? And you've got children saying, is it somebody who looks after the pet? Is it somebody who gets paid to go? I think some of the younger children had these visions of sort of child slaves, I think, that went into nursing homes and got paid to look after the old people. So it is quite a difficult term, and I think a lot of our groundwork in getting into schools and doing assemblies and talking about it, and maybe not even using the label of young carers at first. It's more, you know, do you have to do, do you have to look after somebody in different ways? It's not just practical ways, it can be emotional. You know, are you sat with mum till late at night because she's very distressed, and do you have to listen to what's going on and try and understand and kind of be a mini adult? Can somebody not cope without your help? That's more the question, rather than are you a young carer, because the majority of our children, even the ones that are in the service now, the term young carer doesn't always sit that neatly. It's more about, you know, being a young person that's taking on some additional responsibilities for somebody.
Can I jump in with a question, Sam? Yeah. Yeah. So the purpose of the mental health family hour when we set it up was to ultimately kind of unify the kind of get parents, kids and teachers kind of speaking the same language on the same page. And as you were speaking then, I'm hearing a lot of, obviously, one of the ways you can support the young carers is by supporting them directly, but other ways is by helping to kind of educate and inform the teachers and the staff in school there. So what is something that you would what is a few points that you would love kind of to be more common knowledge amongst the teaching community?
I think it's just recognising that child that's in your class, and I've worked in schools as well, and I understand the pressures on teaching staff. There's that many other things going on, but I think we can all reflect and identify on children that we've worked with where there's been signs that we probably missed. So the child that doesn't have the homework in, the child that's always tired, the child that might even be hungry, not have the right uniform. I think I know that from my experience of working in schools, there can be a tendency to just think it's a family that's not very interested in the child's learning. But actually, if you ask those right questions about what is going on at home for that family, the reason can often be that child's having to sort the family's washing out. So that's the reason that the uniform's not dry, because the child's been in charge of it and it's not quite, they've not timed it right, and they've ended up where they've not got a clean shirt for the day, or they've been in charge of the shopping and they've not managed to get everything they needed that day and carry it home from the shops. it might not be that mum or dad isn't interested in supporting learning and supporting homework or attending parents' evenings. There could be some barriers there that you're just not aware of, whether it be a mobility problem, a communication problem, or we've got so many families that mum or dad don't go out of the house, and the child is the one that's going out and doing the shopping and going and getting the money out of the bank or paying for the gas and electricity cards and that kind of thing. So it can be those kind of barriers that are preventing families from being fully engaged in a child's learning. And I think from a school point of view, it's just understanding the families that you're working with. That child doesn't operate in isolation. That child in front of you in the classroom has a whole system around him or her. But just to try and have some kind of knowledge about what the experience of that child is outside of school, just asking those questions, how was your day today? What did you have to do before you came to school? Asking a child if they're a carer isn't the answer, but saying, what have you had to do before you get to school today? You can have children tell you all kinds of things. I had to sort mum's meds out. I had to make sure she had a lunch at the side of the bed before I left for school, because nobody else is going to be able to do that for her for the rest of the day. Or it could be, I'm really worried and I need my phone on me, because if mum has a fall, she has nobody else to ring. Or all those kinds of things I think often get missed in school.
Do you think that, obviously it can be, depending on the condition that the parent's got, it can be very difficult to expect any more of the actual parent.
Yes.
But for example, do you think that it would be reasonable to kind of maybe make it less of a stigma around parents just informing the school about this? Is there work that could be done there in order to that? Because if the parent did inform them, there might be a lot of maybe embarrassment or shame or anything around that type of thing. But the parent, if we're not expecting the parent to kind of, man up and get on with it as the rest of the world seems to want them to do, but we're not expecting that. But do you think there's work there that could be done to kind of encourage parents to just say, there's no shame in this, please, if your child is having to care for you in any means, do you ever get parents come to you for this? Yeah,
quite a lot of the support work that I did was around those kind of conversations with schools. So it's often the young person that will say, I want school to know what's happening for me, but I don't want to have the conversation myself.
Right.
Because so it was being that kind of messenger almost, and saying, well, we'll make sure that the teachers understand what's happening for you. So if there's a time when you need your phone on in class, you're not having to explain why. They've already got that background. We'll do that bit. And just kind of easing that conversation. And the same with parents as well. I think often parents are really reluctant to share, especially if it's around substance misuse or mental health. The stigma around those particular issues, that social care will be involved and the children will get taken away. But it's trying to allay those fears. We're there to help. We're a charity. You can choose to take up our support or not.
Yeah.
Some families take the information and go away, and we don't hear from them until a point comes where it's crisis, and they think, those people will help me. There is help there. It's certainly not a negative. Like I said before, lots of children are really rightly proud of what they do, and parents are rightly proud of what the children do as well. It's about making sure that if children want to carry on caring, and it's a choice. And I think sometimes children and young people don't realise that it's a choice. It's kind of, this is what I have to do. If children want to continue to provide that care, that they do it in a way that is healthy for them and healthy for their family as well. So they're not taking on inappropriate levels of care that mean that school suffers, their own aspirations for the future suffer, and that they're limited in their experiences. So that, it's not a life sentence of doom and gloom. There's lots of really positive things that come out of being a young carer.
Yeah. So what sort of support do you need to give to a carer that does actually choose to walk away from it, like they don't want to actually continue being that carer? What type of support do you need to give there?
Children and young people are eligible to, under the Care Act and the Children and Families Act, to a statutory carers assessment. So the social care department would come and carry out a carers assessment to look at the impact of the caring role on that young person. And if that young person said, I actually don't want to do this, I can't cope, it's not something that I want to choose in my life anymore, other packages of care would have to be put in place through social care, or the different avenues it might be that we look at other family support that could take on some of that role. Often children are happy. We don't really regularly get children or young people that say, I don't want to be a carer anymore. It's often at the transition periods of life, so where a young person might say, I actually now want to go to university, and I don't want to miss out on that choice, on that chance, but I also don't want to leave mum without care. And it's often at those points that we have to look at planning for alternative care.
Okay. Cool.
Just to touch on Faye as well, you mentioned about substance misuse and mental health issues and people caring for the parents that are struggling with that. Do you think schools are more accepting if the young person is caring for someone with a physical disability? Do you think they're more understanding if they're late for school or they don't turn up for school than they would be with a mental health issue or substance misuse issues going on?
I think in those kind of situations, it's more visible. The caring role is generally more visible and accepted. I can see that as well. And I think where it's substance misuse and mental ill health, there's a tendency for families not to, that disclosure is not often there. So children can be managing those kind of situations under the radar, and it can be a difficult situation to get to the bottom of why a child is late or missing school and that kind of thing. And families find it more difficult, I think, as well, to accept that's what's happening. And I think traditionally it has been looked at young carers as children that do practical things. So they do the washing and they do the shopping and they cook and they push somebody in a wheelchair, those kind of really visible caring roles. Whereas a child who's looking after somebody because of mental ill health or substance misuse, it's often more of an emotional caring role. It's often the children that are in school worrying about what's happening when they're not there. So, I've worked with children that will not go to school on a particular day because they know mum gets paid that day, which then means that the house will be full of people coming to use or drink with her. So a child will log this date, on the second Tuesday of the month, mum gets paid or whatever it is, and I'm not going into school that day because I want to head off problems before they start. So it is a different caring role, and there's different things to look out for.
And in terms of the young carers as well, do you see a high level amount of mental health issues in these young carers or not?
The children never fail to impress me at how resilient they are. After all the time of working with children, the positivity and the ways that they find to keep going are fantastic. You think these young people have just kind of picked this up and run with it and got on with it. But underneath all that, there are children and young people that store a lot of this up and it comes out sideways further on. And we have lots of children that, especially around substance misuse and mental health, that worry about the cyclical approach, that they see this cycle of behaviour that a parent has and worry that is that something that means that they're going to go through that as well. So we do a lot of work with children around positive choices. Just because mum or dad has an addiction problem does not mean that you will, you automatically take up that as well. So we do lots of work around that, but we do see that some young people really do suffer with their own mental health just because of the situation and again the choices and maybe not getting the right support at the right time. So we often have children come to us towards the end of secondary school, but they've actually had a caring role since early on in primary, and they've dealt with that the whole time without understanding what's happening, just kind of taking it on without any kind of support.
Yeah. And does it lead to them struggling with friendships as well? Do you notice that?
Yes, lots of children that I've worked with have purposely kept friendships very with friendships because of the fear that, you know, I invite you to my house, so you have to invite me to your house, and that knowledge that their home environment is so different potentially from their friends, that they don't want to let that side of their life out in public, if you will. So as I said before, with school, often children just want to be in school. I just want to come to school and be me. I don't want to be me who's got a mum who's dying, or me who's got a mum who's very poorly with mental health, or I just want to be me. So to take a relationship with a friend to another level kind of opens up quite a lot of difficult conversations that children often aren't ready for. So a lot of the work that we do here is about the respite sessions that we provide. It's not a session, it's not like an AA meeting where children sit down and say, my name's Faye and I look after my mum. Often children don't speak about the caring role. It's just that understanding, and often it doesn't have to be spoken about, that you're going through something similar to me. So you understand that I'm not going to invite you back to my house for a sleepover or to come and have your tea, because I'm not going to do that either, because we're in similar situations. So we work hard to develop those friendships between children that understand each other and at their pace, and they can be as deep or as surface as they want. But the children that we work with, they generally come to us with limited friendships.
I bet it's quite rewarding to watch friendships blossom, though, isn't it, when you're putting on these events and
It's
everything?
fantastic, because we see that our support is the start of it. Once children move on from our support, we hope that their networks are formed. Then they've got some allies out there that understand, and they're kind of friends for life. Especially, I've worked with children where we've taken groups on residential breaks, and those kind of bonds stay for so long. I sometimes see children now and they'll say, do you remember when we went on that residential? And I think, gosh, that was about 8 years ago, and they're still in touch with the others that they shared a room with on that residential, and that they did some canoeing with or rock climbing with. They forged some really strong bonds, and that I love that. That's the best bit about what we do.
And obviously you're Blackpool Carers, but I'm aware of Blackburn Carers. Is the one in each locality all around Lancashire and South Cumbria?
There's lots of different young carers services. They're all slightly different depending on how they're funded and all that kind of boring stuff. But there are different levels of support, and depending on where you are, depends on what kind of support you get. So we just cover Blackpool, and then we have Bernardo's cover Fylde and Wyre and some other parts of Lancashire, and then we have the Children's Society that provide support in Blackburn and Darwen.
Brilliant. Hi, Neve.
Hi.
Neve's wearing purple. I love it.
How are you? You okay? Good. Well, welcome to the Mental Health Family Hour. Thank you for that, Faye. We'll come back to you in a second. First of all, Neve, I just want to say that I think you're absolutely amazing. I've heard lots of positive things about you, and I think the work that you do is completely selfless, and I think you are an absolutely amazing and inspiring young person. So I just wanted to start with that. And I know Dave, who's my colleague, will be raving about you being in purple, because his organisation is all purple, as you can see. So my name's Sam, by the way. So I run a service called Change Talks. So my aim is to try and prevent mental health problems out in the community with young people. Dave, just want to say who you are?
Yeah, my name is Dave. I work primarily with adults, but I do a lot of work with Sam with younger people as well in schools. My kind of, I suppose, main aim is to help mental health problems once they're already there. So Sam works in the pre, I work in the sort of post, but it gets blurred, doesn't it? And we end up working in a bit of both.
Hi, Neve. I'm Faye. I'm just in the room nearby in the centre. I'm one of the managers here at the Carer Centre, and I haven't met you yet, but I'll come and find you afterwards.
Oh, Nate, you just want to say a little bit about yourself, if that's okay? Just introduce yourself.
Uh, so I've basically been a young carer since I was 5. And it just feels normal. Like most people think that it's sort of weird to be always around your mum and stuff, where I'm sort of used to it. So
And how have you found it since lockdown, Dave? Has it been okay, or?
yeah, it got a bit hard in the beginning because obviously she was at home more until she got told that she could go back to work. So because obviously I was at home every day and she was at home every day, it just got a bit hard. When she went back to work, it got a bit easier because then my dad came home and then my little brother went to school. So then also there to help me.
Yeah. And have you been going back to school at all, or are you waiting until September?
I'm waiting until September, but I've obviously done all my homework from school, and I've had like a lot of help with it. So like when I go back to school, I'm getting this special reading pen because my mum's just found out that I'm struggling to read. So I'm getting this pen that reads for
And
me.
you will learn to do it, and you'll be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So the school is supporting you with that.
Mm.
Good. And can I ask, Neve, as well? So when did you come across Blackpool Carers? When did you get involved with this organisation?
I think I sort of got involved. Start like nearly at the beginning of this year. Like my friend from swimming told me about it, and then my mum. Yeah. So. Yeah. No.
Sorry, it broke up a little. Did you say it was your friend from swimming that introduced you to Blackpool Carers? Yeah. And then was it your mum that reached out to Blackpool Carers?
Yeah.
And how are you enjoying working with them?
It's been really fun so far.
Good. And have you met other young people as well that are young carers?
No, not yet.
I suppose with this lockdown, it's been difficult, hasn't it?
That's on Thursday.
On Thursday?
Yeah, so I'm coming back in on Thursday.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah.
Good. Keeps breaking up a bit my end.
Well, yeah, it is breaking up. Faye, can you hear us okay? Are you still coming through all right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to ask a question, maybe to Faye, and then neither of you, this might be applicable to you as well in terms of, because obviously we've talked about the support from friends who are in a similar situation. Now, on this show, me and Sam see social media as a bit of a double-edged sword, really. I'm a little bit more pro social media. Sam's a little bit more anti-social media. Because we see that it's both good and bad, really. It can be a really good tool for some people, especially over the last few months when we've not been able to physically be with each other. Faye, is there anywhere outside of the actual physical groups? You've got, as you said, people don't want to necessarily go to each other's houses and things like that because of those sorts of situations. What roles does social media play on average, would you say?
I think social media sort of helps a bit because you can keep in touch with the people that are helping you, as well as sort of keeping in touch with everyone else.
So is that keeping in touch with the other people that are giving you care, or do you keep in touch with other friends on there and all?
Yeah, I keep in touch with family and friends on there, and it's just really during lockdown, it's really helped with it because I've kept up with my friendships and stuff.
Okay. And do you have any other friends that are also carers?
I have, and I think it's just that one friend from swimming.
Okay. And do you find that he or she, or is it he? Okay. Do you find that he kind of understands things a bit better than your other friends? So those type of, do you have conversations about what it's like to be a carer with him?
Some of my friends from school are sort of getting used to me not being able to come out and play with them, like going out to the horse fields near our live and stuff. And ever since then, they've actually come to help me at home and stuff.
That's amazing.
You've got a really good group of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And was it scary kind of telling those friends at first kind of what your situation was?
I didn't really tell them. They actually sort of started to notice me, not like high school. They started to notice that I've been slightly different from what I used to be because of my mum's my mum's physical health has been getting a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been more sort of upset at school until Jade came and helped me. And then ever since then, it's just sort of been okay.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of people often are scared telling people. It's great that you had your friends pick up on that. A lot of people are scared of actually opening up about things because they worry what people are going to think of them. And most of the time, people are like your friends once they know. But you don't often get friends that just see the signs. You know, I think that's one of the things that me and Sam, I suppose, need to think about more is the fact that because the more awareness goes up on these things, the more people will actually see the signs on these, and the more you'll get groups of friends like yours that reached out. But it's been a really positive experience for you, your friends understanding it better.
Yeah.
Can I ask as well, Neve? So, what type of social media platforms do your age group mainly use?
We mainly use like possibly Snapchat sometimes, but mainly WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah. What about like Dave? I think Dave's big on TikTok.
I'm not big on TikTok. I'm big on Instagram.
Dave likes to post some dances, Neve, on TikTok, I think.
Yeah.
It's not true.
TikTok's also a fun thing because you can also sort of see what your friends are doing as well as also being talking to them. So say because I went to the Pleasure Beach on Thursday with my friends, but like my one friend couldn't come because she was at her grandma's. So I sort of just recorded near enough everything for her, and she just felt like she was there. And I thought it just sort of helped us and her stay connected.
Yeah, great. And do you think that being involved with Blackpool Carers now, do you think that's going to help you more in school too? Now,
Yeah.
Link, yeah.
Yeah.
And what if there was anyone watching that was your age that was a carer that wasn't aware of Blackpool Carers or anything like that? What would you advise them to do? Would you advise them to reach out for some support like this?
I'd tell them to reach out and sort of try and get that same group to help them around and stuff, and do the best that we can.
Yeah. And do you feel that everything's in place in school for September for you to really help you develop?
Nearly. I think there's just a couple of things that need adjusting, and then I think it'll be all set.
Great. And what's your favourite subject?
My favourite subject is maths, but I'm not really that good at it.
I wish I could say I was good at it and I enjoyed it, but I'm not good at it and I didn't enjoy it in school.
We talked about this at the beginning. I'm the only one that seemed to enjoy maths, so we both love maths and both love purple, so there we go.
Yeah.
What do you do to look after yourself, Neve?
I think when I go to bed, I usually go upstairs and just sort of calm down, listen to my music and read my book, and that's just how I keep care of myself.
Yeah, and is that what you'd advise other people to do as well?
Yeah. So I've had that at least like before they go to bed, probably go to bed about half an hour before they actually go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just try and read a book or listen to their music or something.
What type of book do you read?
Currently I'm in the middle of reading Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Oh, I've not read that one. I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I've got the scripted book.
Oh, that would be brilliant. Do you like the film as well?
Yeah.
Good.
And they're actually making a movie of it next year.
Are they?
Yeah.
You'll have to drop in that Blackpool Carers should take you all to watch the movie. Just dropping that in there to Faye.
Oh, I'm sure we can get some funding for that.
Do you want to ask any questions, Faye?
No, I think Neve said it all, really, hasn't she?
Dave?
I'd just like to hear from Faye in terms of what what social media role sort of plays across the board, because Neve's just given one of the most positive accounts of social media we've heard in a long time, and it's fantastic to hear that. But like, do you see social media as being a useful thing? Are there useful things people can go to on social media to get sort of instant access to help?
Our social media provides us with a great window for everything that we do, and then also we've got closed groups so that we can engage with groups that we've not been able to see face to face. We've been able to have some contact there and kept some respite going for people, albeit virtually and not in the way that we'd usually have it. But it's been really positive in the sense that it's engaged some people through lockdown that we've been unable to get into the building before. So obviously lots of carers' lives are quite unpredictable and difficult to plan for. So we often get children and families saying, we can't commit to coming into the respite sessions every week. You know, this was obviously in the olden days. But being able to just log on and do some of this kind of thing in a group setting has meant that some children that we've not been able to see in person before and have kind of lost that support with us, have been able to engage in a different way. So it's been really positive for us. And also all of our social media platforms are monitored regularly and out of hours as well. So sometimes we get some messages where people need us, and we're not an emergency service, but people will get a response from us if they want to contact us on Facebook or Twitter. Not too hot on Instagram, I think I need to sort that out. But apart from that, people do come and contact us directly through Twitter and Facebook quite often. So we get inquiries about referrals, we get people commenting on the kind of respite that they'd like to see, and often just wanting a little bit of advice. So we see it in a really positive light. We do work with children about them staying safe online. That's an important part of what we do in our respite sessions, and we encourage really open conversations about how children are experiencing social media. But they're the experts, it seems, because often we're completely baffled by a lot of this technology. So we rely on people like Neve to help us a little bit, us oldies.
I don't understand it. I go to Dave.
I was going to say, we've got a very weird dynamic over here. I'm 10 years older than Sam, and yet I do all the tech for us. So, but I honestly expected him to know more than I did. But he's too busy out running ultra marathons.
Yeah. I'm not too anti-social media, and I do tweet a lot, but I think for me, just from what I've seen within the younger generation, I find that there's a lot of like comparison issues and them feeling inadequate if they don't get enough likes or followers.
Yeah.
What I found really fascinating about what Jade said a minute ago, though, is that about when they went to the pleasure beach and they managed to keep their friend included by using social media, because there's a lot of people that would probably in the same situation be like, I'm looking at what's happening and with my friends are out there and I'm jealous, or I don't feel included, or I feel excluded. And I think that's why it's very important that we don't place hard and fast rules on so many things, because there's always a different way of viewing it. And Jade's friend in that situation felt included and felt like she was there and was part of it, which is a fantastic use of it. So Neve, sorry, I've got Jade written on my screen.
Yeah, Jade.
So I got it right the first time, right? I said Neve the first time. Maybe did I call you Jade the first time? I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to carry on then, Dave.
No, I've just put my foot in my mouth, so I'm just moving, like, record scratch. I'm going to move quickly on from that.
Can I ask, is there anything that, if you don't mind me asking, is there anything that you've struggled with as a young carer?
Not really, no.
Do you find that's because it's what you've always known since you was quite a young person? Yeah. But do you definitely feel like life will get easier with having this support, though? Do you think that's going to make a huge difference to you?
Yeah.
And on Thursday, are you meeting people face to face?
Yeah, I'm coming here again on Thursday.
And will that be people your age, or will it be a mix?
Yeah.
Your mixed age. Yeah. I'll be putting on food for you and drinks. I'm trying to help you out here.
You've already managed to be like,
Food is usually the main draw. That we love food here. There's food and going out. That's what we're all about.
What do these sessions tend to look like, Faye? Is it just people coming together? Do you have separate groups for different ages, or is it all together?
In normal times, we have a primary age group, we have secondary, and then we have young adult carers that are sort of 14 to 25. So some of our secondary school age group kind of start filtering into the older ones when they're ready. The sessions are led by the young people, so the workers are really good at consulting with the groups as to what they want to see over the next however long. So usually we kind of follow the school terms, so workers will plan sessions and themes throughout a school term. There's some things that we'll always thread in there, so things like internet safety, safe relationships, mental health and well-being. There'll always be those kind of common themes. But as far as activities, if we've got a group who want to learn how to cook, then we'll do cooking sessions and they can lead on what they want to do. If we've got some children that want to go out exploring, then we'll do scavenger hunts and we'll be outside a lot. And we just mix it dependent on what the children want. It's very free and easy, so where there will be an activity going on that might be scavenger hunt or whatever outside, there'll be other choices inside if children want to do painting or play pool or play on the Xbox, whatever it might be. So there's lots of different activities, and it's the same with activities that go on in the school holidays. So in usual times, we like to get out of Blackpool or just generally out of the building, and so it can be things like the cinema. Lots of our young people don't get that chance within family life to do those kinds of things. I'm trying to think of all the things I've done. Roller skating, skiing, doing art and drama, anything that children feel that they miss out on in life, then we'll do our best to make sure that the respite sessions cover that.
Brilliant. Neve, is there anything in particular that you would like to do?
I'd sort of like to teach everyone else how to bake.
Oh.
I'm really good at baking.
I'll join that one.
When you put this one on, I'll come up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm there.
What type of things do you bake?
Brownies, cookies, cakes, flapjacks, toffee, fudge.
All my favourite stuff, basically.
I can also make bread.
Well, that sounds really nice.
Yeah,
really.
we're there.
What about a garlic bread?
I only know how to do like normal white bread at the moment, but I think I can also make cinnamon rolls with the bread recipes.
Yeah.
So.
Do they still do cooking classes in school or not, or have they got rid of that?
There's still, they do some cooking classes, but it's mainly just how to make breads and.
Well, I think you're doing sorry, it's froze again. Then I think you're doing a fantastic job, and if you do put on a baking class, I'll be the first one to sign up.
Yeah.
You signed us up for dance classes last week, remember?
Oh yeah. Well, why not?
I'm going to have to start pre-vetting the guests that Sam has on the show. I mean, I'm not complaining. Dancing and cook and baking, I can get involved in both of those. But he'll have me signed up to you'll have me signed up to a triathlon in a few weeks or something.
Oh, why not? Why not?
All right, well, I'm having you signed up to learn how to use technology then.
Yeah, well, I'm up for it. So just to sort of start to round up, first to Faye, is there anything that you'd just like to put out there? If there's any young carers watching, how can they access you if they're from the Blackpool area? And anything else you'd just like to put out there just before we finish?
Yeah, well, if you are a young carer, there is help there. You don't have to deal with all this on your own. Like I said before, it's not a negative thing. It's not something that's you need to be embarrassed about or worried about. There's so many. I think we've got over 1,000 children in Blackpool registered with us at the moment, and we know there's lots more out there. So just get in touch with us. If you're outside of Blackpool, there are other services. So it's Bernardo's, Carers Link, and the Children's Society that cover other areas of Lancashire. If you're not sure, you can just get in touch with us and we'll direct you in the right way. But yeah, just there is help out there.
Thank you. And then Neve, is there anything that you would like to say? If there's anyone watching that is a carer, is there anything that you tell them to do or advise?
Basically, so do the best you can to help, and if there's people that don't.
Sorry, could you repeat that again? It just broke up a little bit.
To do the best that you can do, and if there's people that don't like or don't care about what you're doing, just ignore them.
I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. Dave, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just the same. To echo what I kind of said earlier, is just, you know, to any young carer out there, if the situation ever feels like you're not up to the task, or the situation makes you ever feel like you're not good enough, you are beyond good enough. You are doing something that, you know, most kids your age would never have to face. You're doing stuff that a lot of adults would never have to face and wouldn't have the same strength that you've got in what you're doing. So every single one of us makes mistakes in what we do. Every single one of us sometimes doesn't do the absolute best that could be doing in the world. But if we're trying to do our best, like Neve's just said, that's, you know, if you're actually trying to do your best, then that's all we can ask. And you're already doing something that's amazing. You're already doing something that's fantastic, and you are a warrior, and you should be respected.
Perfect. So a big thank you to Faye. Just to end on you, Neve. Obviously, you see what you do it's normal for you, but I just want to say that once again, I think you're absolutely fantastic. I think you're an amazing young person, and when you go back to school and you're getting this extra support, you are going to achieve everything you want to. And you never know, we might see you on the Great British Bake Off in the years to come, and so I'll be rooting for you. But I know that you don't see it because your life has been this way for quite a long period of time. But I do think what you are doing is so selfless, and I've got the utmost respect for you, and I think you're absolutely incredible. So a big thank you for all you're doing for your mum and supporting your family, and I wish you the best of luck in your future. And I'm sure at some point I will actually meet you face to face, because before the lockdown I was supposed to be coming into Blackpool Carers. So in the months or however long it takes to come, I will be meeting you face to face. So we will have a cooking class. Thank you very much. And I guess really, if anyone wants to get in touch after this episode, once again, Sam.Tyrer, Tyrer. I can't even remember my last name, honestly.
If you can't, no one else is going to now.
I'm like, oh. So Sam.Tyrer at lancashire.nhs.uk. If anyone has any comments or wants to, put any queries forward regarding this session, then please do get in touch. So thank you very much for tuning in. Please share widely with your organisations, friends and family. And we will look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.